Well, cage fighting connoisseurs, this is KidNativeBloodyElbow.com, joined by Zane Simon for the UFC 199 post-fight show, the sixth round. Oh my God, Michael Bisping is the new UFC middleweight champion. Nobody saw this coming. He came in on 17 days' notice, beats Luke Rockhold, first round KO. Beautiful combination of punches. Started with a body shot, goes with a left hook to the head. And was it another left? Was it left?
I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just sweet stuff for a guy that they say has pillow fists.
Well, the thing, Bisping does have a lot of finishes over his career, so obviously, he's been a little mislabeled, but in 99 billion other universes out there, Michael Bisping just lost that fight. Like, we are in the one dimension where that happened. Like, of all the probability trees out there, I am still totally, absolutely speechless. I mean, he wasn't even training. It wasn't even like he came in on 17 days notice and he had a full camp. He was off shooting triple X. He did not look in shape in the cage.
And afterwards he said it was the easiest fight of his life. And Luke Rockhold said, I shouldn't have taken him for granted.
Yep. Man.
Amazing.
It's an insane and crazy world, and I don't know, I feel like we've just split off, bifurcated from the main timeline, and now we're going to end up in all sorts of, crazy alternate reality bizarreness.
The fact that they signed Brock Lesnar to fight at UFC 200 tells us already we're in crazy land, and the rumors are it could be Fedor, could be Shane Carwin. We don't know. But holy shit.
I don't know.
It's been one of the biggest days for UFC news ever. Michael Bisping, a guy that many thought would never even get a title shot, much less win the title. Coming in off a 3-fight win streak, including a win over all-time great Anderson Silva in his last bout, although that was a fight some thought he lost. Can't deny that Bisping earned it. I mean, he came in, Rockhold threw a few of his patented kicks to the body. Bisping answered with a kick to the body of his own, but that final combination really came out of the blue.
Yeah, it just, I'm just shocked beyond belief, honestly. I can't even think of how to digest that. It's not like the only time we've ever seen Rockhold stopped was when he got spinning hook kick to the head by Vitor Belfort. I guess he lost his second pro fight to somebody named Tony Rubalcava. But, we've seen him in there with Machida, with Weidman, with Boch, with Philippou, with Kennedy, and Jacare, and never finished in any of those fights. And so to assume that even Bisping landing a good shot would put Rockhold down, it just... I can't even...
It's very impressive. The first right to the body wasn't a devastating blow, but it really seemed to get Rockhold off guard and to set Bisping up. I mean, he just had the perfect angle for the follow-up lefts to the side of Rockhold's head. Just had a completely dominant angle, zeroed in on him, boom, hit him once, hit him again, and that was that. It was amazing performance from Michael Bisping. And now we have to put up with him talking shit and being an asshole about it, which is his due. And I demand it. I insist that he deliver. I mean, I can forgive him anything at this point as long as he behaves like a complete jackass while he's champion. Live it up, Bisping. You don't know how long it's going to last. Let your true flag fly and just be a complete cock to everybody.
What would be really great is if he, draws out his reign as long as he can, really builds up a title fight with a whole bunch of shit talk, and then pulls out at the last minute and retires with the belt.
Yes.
I'm done. Never mind. That would be the ultimate walk off into the sunset asshole move of just
he wants to continue to be an announcer for Fox Sports 1 in the UFC, so
that may sour that too heavily, but
yes.
I'm very happy for the guy, honestly. Like,
Yeah, yeah. He's for all the years I've hated him, and he seemed like such a dick. In recent years, he seemed to have mellowed somewhat, and he's just put in the time, and he's consistently improved. He's honed his craft and honed his craft. He came back from an ugly eye injury he got fighting Alan Belcher, permanently disfigured. You can still see to this day that his right eye is jacked up, and hats off to Michael Bisping. I mean, damn, that was an incredible win. And Luke Rockhold, it's hard to be too hard on Rockhold. I mean, he was training for Chris Weidman, and he only had 2 weeks' notice for this fight too.
yeah, but come on. He had
Yeah.
2 weeks notice for a dude that he absolutely pantsed the last time they fought,
Yes.
and he just
He came in
I don't know.
overconfident.
Like,
I think when a guy
yeah.
says that he came in overconfident after just having gotten his ass whipped, that he came in overconfident. I think we can say he came in overconfident. Luke Rockhold said it himself.
It's no lie too that he's not known for being the sharpest tool in the AKA shed.
No.
You know,
Yeah.
he's kind of he's kind of known as like the dumb pretty guy in the gym, and maybe he just fought dumb. I don't know. Like, it's just
he definitely did fight dumb. I mean,
yeah. The thing I will say that I saw watching it is, because I did feel, and I do feel, that Bisping is the best technical fighter he's ever been.
Yes.
And the thing I noticed as the fight was starting out was that Rockhold was kicking some, but he was really willing to actually just try and box with Bisping in a straight boxing match.
Which was dumb.
Like, that's the thing that Bisping is best at. Rockhold, he's got these really sharp counter hooks that he throws with great power. But even in the Weidman fight, we saw, like, if his opponent can get past those hooks or force Rockhold into a longer exchange, his striking, his boxing game is still not great. He's not a great technical deep striker in combination. And he was willing to just try and test out that combination boxing against Bisping, and it was not a good idea.
No, it was remarkably dumb. He should have stuck with his kicking game. And what Rockhold is a mixed martial artist. He's excellent at wrestling, kicking, and he just didn't mix it up enough. But let's talk about Dominick Cruz in your eye favor. Bantamweight champion cruises to a unanimous decision win. One judge gave Faber one round on the card, presumably the first round, which was a pretty back and forth grappling bout. Cruz came out and took him down, which surprised everybody, and briefly made it look like Faber was in the fight in a way that he really wasn't.
Well, I think Faber, to his credit, he came out and he did early what very few fighters have been able or willing to do with Cruz potentially since like Mighty Mouse, which is that he just went in and turned it into a brawl. And he said, okay, you know what? I'm going to open myself up. I'm going to put myself at risk, and I'm going to try and drag this fight to the ground, into transitions, wherever I can, so that you're not out moving around at range, making me look foolish. And he did that. And he kind of, he dared Cruz, basically, like, you got to hurt me, because I'm just going to rush in and I'm not going to go away unless you can hurt me. And Cruz hurt him. And the moment he hurt him, Faber said, okay, well, that didn't work. I guess I'm just going to go to the outside and let you pick me apart for 5 rounds.
Yeah. It was the second round when Cruz dropped him and put him right on his butt. I believe it was the left hand that caught him. But, yeah, the rest of it was just textbook Dominick Cruz. Although he was limping around, he had a taped left ankle, referenced a foot injury he sustained before his previous fight where he beat TJ Dillashaw to take the title.
Apparently it's plantar fasciitis, so that's what they were saying, which that doesn't even really go away. It just means he's going to kind of constantly have to be favoring that until it heals up, maybe months and months from now.
Yeah, and it made him a remarkably diminished fighter in terms of his mobility. He still was amazingly mobile, but you could tell he was limping on that left leg and favoring it, and was just not at all he just didn't have the bounce to his right that he normally does. But it didn't seem to impact the fight in any way, shape, or form. He totally dominated Faber, and Faber's talking about considering retirement after this fight, and I can see why. I mean, he's fought for the title so many times, come up short. He's moved divisions, fought for the title, come up short. He can still basically beat people in the top 5 of the division. It's just he can't take a title, and you got to think that gets old after a while.
Yeah, and I mean, even his fight before that against Frankie Saenz, the writing is on the wall that Faber is starting to get to the point where guys at the fringes of the top 10 could start taking decisions off him, could start taking close fights off him.
Yeah.
I don't see Faber as the kind of dude who wants to be fighting on undercards, letting young talent, being a gatekeeper to young talent.
No, he's got a lot of pride, and I think, he wants to fight for titles. He wants to headline cards. He wants to be a star. He wants to get some of that pay-per-view bonus money. And, it might be curtains for the California kid, but it's been a great career. He never held the UFC title, but he was the WEC champ for a long time, beat Dominick Cruz back in the WEC days, and has had a great run in the UFC, frankly.
Oh, yeah, no, he's an amazing fighter. For as much as he's loved and as much as fans really like him, I think he's been kind of a classically underrated fighter. Like there's a real failure to recognize just how good his game has had to be to perform as long as he has at as high a level as he has. It's not, he's a very good athlete and he's very tough, but it's really remarkable for somebody like him to have started competing at what was pretty much close to an elite level in like 2006, and it's 2016 and he just fought for the title again. And at bantamweight, where you've got to be fast and hard punching and talented all the time athletically, or you're just going to fall behind.
Yeah, and he acquitted himself quite well. I mean, he was never really in this fight, but he didn't embarrass himself. And as for Dominick Cruz, where does Cruz go from here? Who's the challenger? What's the big money fight? There's talk of a super fight with flyweight champ Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. You think that's happening? Yeah. So what's
Johnson basically said he's not going up. He's not interested unless the money's right, and I don't think the money's ever going to be right for Demetrius Johnson. And
the two littlest guys in the UFC go head to head. It's not going to be the UFC 300. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, they're not going to put they're not going to pay Demetrius a huge check to move up and fight Dominick Cruz. It's just not going to happen.
No.
And Cruz is talking about fighting. He off threw his name out there for McGregor, but we don't even know if McGregor's ever going to fight at featherweight again, let alone a catchweight between the divisions, or a bantamweight or a super fight where Cruz moves up and stuff like that. I think the moment he touches that 145 division, he's going to have to fight the challengers that are stacking up there. Honestly, it just seems like the winner of Dillashaw versus Sunsao is left, and Cruz is going to have to make do with the guys that are rising up his own division. Maybe Cody Garbrandt soon,
Yeah, Garbrandt, red hot after his big win last week over Thomas Almeida, ranked number 7, but with a bullet. I don't know. I think Garbrandt could use a little more seasoning before fighting for a title, but honestly, he's the only guy out there that's really interested. I mean, yeah. So,
next it'll be the winner of Dillashaw Sunsao, and after that, assuming it's Dillashaw, if Dillashaw can't beat Cruz the second time around, then it'll get interesting because unfortunately, two of their biggest prospects, Sterling and Almeida, just had big setbacks, and those were guys that were getting a real big push going into that event. Fortunately, they still have Lineker and Dodson coming up, and they've got other people for Cruz to fight, but I don't think he's going to get like the big money super fights or go out and have some huge pay-per-view headlining massive performances out in the future. I just don't see those possibilities open for him.
No, it's hard to see that. I could see him headlining some Fox cards, but I think he'll probably be doing these co-main events. It seems like they've learned their lesson as far as booking these little guys to headline cards to try to carry pay-per-views.
Yeah, it doesn't. It has yet to really, it's yet to do the kind of big numbers that their big pay-per-views can do, or even their mediocre pay-per-views can do.
Yep. Yeah, and so losing game. But let's keep moving through the card. Featherweight Max Holloway utterly dominated Ricardo Lamas. Lamas had a few licks, tagged Holloway a couple of times, but really an amazing performance from Max Holloway. Couldn't put him away, but just the combinations he was unleashing. Beautiful stuff. 30-27 on all three cards. Dominated virtually every minute of definitely every minute of the fight, virtually every second of the fight. Title in his future. I mean, McGregor is sort of the champ of the division, sort of not. Holloway's not a big money fight for him, but would be a dangerous fight for him.
Yeah, it would be definitely a really interesting fight. I don't think Holloway's best chance for an immediate title shot is if McGregor just leaves featherweight. If he doesn't come back, then Holloway should be next in line for the winner of Jose Aldo, Frankie Edgar.
Yep.
And those both be very interesting fights,
Absolutely, and I like Holloway's chances against either of them.
Yeah, I mean, Holloway's takedown defense looked amazing in this fight. That would make Edgar a fascinating matchup, and Jose Aldo, it's really tough to know where Jose Aldo's going to be when he comes back. Like we don't know what to expect after him suffering that first knockout loss of his career. He could be suddenly headed into Renan Barão territory, where somebody who looked amazing and dominant for years and years and years is suddenly not the most fighter.
Yeah. It's anything could happen, and Holloway is only 24 and is markedly improving from fight to fight. Yeah. I really look forward to seeing what he comes with next, because the combinations he was throwing tonight. I mean, that wheel kick he threw in at the tail end of a beautiful combination, that was next level stuff. I mean, this kid is looking very slick and sharp right now, and I'm really excited about where he goes in the future. I definitely think he's going to eventually have the belt, but whether it's this year or 3 years from now, I can't say.
Yeah, he'll absolutely fight for the title at some point, hopefully several times. Whether or not he wins will all depend on how the division shapes around him, but he's got a ton of talent up there. It's great to see him turn around the way he has and really build his skill and become such a dominant force in that division. And fought a great fight against Lamas. He almost fell into the trap Lamas sets for everyone, where it seems like you're really hurting him and beating him up and dominating him. So you start opening your offense way up wide, and then Lamas starts coming back and just dropping bombs on you, because Lamas is all opportunities. That's all it is. Like, the moment he sees a goal, he can grab it better than almost any fighter out there.
Yeah, and he tagged Holloway at least 3 times that way.
Yeah. And he had him hurt a couple times, but the moment Holloway actually stepped back and said, okay, I'm going to fight smart and not put myself in any danger, he totally shut Lamas down.
Yeah, Lamas was completely outclassed as long as Holloway was paying attention to his defense. And so for Lamas, kind of, I think, sputtering to the tail end of his period as a top contender.
I don't know. He's still the gatekeeper to the top 5, and that's just kind of what he is. He's the guy that's good enough to beat almost everyone in the division except elite fighters who don't make mistakes. And there are so few fighters that don't make mistakes. Like, guys like Holloway who stay that safe while landing good good dominant offense are really rare. So yeah, I think that a lot left for Lamas out there, even off a loss like this.
Well, we'll see. We will see. But now, speaking of something left, I did not think Dan Henderson had this in him. Great fight with Hector Lombard. Dan Henderson knocks him out in the second round, minute 27, with a head kick and reverse elbow combination, followed up by a flying elbow to the grounded opponent, and a second one just for kicks.
Yeah.
And I think was he going for the third when Herb Dean actually blocked the shot?
Probably. Dan Henderson has never had any qualms about killing a man in the cage.
No, he likes to get his licks in, and especially with somebody like Hector Lombard, who had already hurt Henderson badly in the fight and who has a reputation for being a dick. Henderson had no qualms about putting it to him when he had him hurt. And what a fight. Henderson landed the first big shot, staggered Lombard in the first round, then rushed in and got caught, and then got thrown to the ground with some pretty slick, just intuitive judo. I mean, you could immediately tell Lombard was not a guy you want to be in the clinch with. And then later, and dominated on the ground. Then later they get back up, and Lombard very, very, very nearly stopped the fight. Just beat the shit out of Dan Henderson towards the end of the first round.
The thing with I thought about this. It crossed my mind and I dismissed it because I thought it was totally insane and not worth entertaining. That any fighter whose path to victory over Dan Henderson relies on him closing into the pocket to land a shot is in extreme danger.
Yes.
And Hector Lombard, his path to victory was close Dan Henderson down, walk into the pocket, and land a big shot.
Yep.
And I thought that
several times. Yes. And Henderson survived, which we didn't think he had in him, frankly. He's been dropping from the first big punch in recent fights. So this is 2 wins in a row for Henderson. Completely improbable. I guarantee he's going to keep fighting.
It really feels that way. I would love to see him walk away on top. You know, he's got a win now. He coming off that loss to Vitor Belfort, he's got a win. It feels like a great moment to just say, hey,
that's right. I misspoke. It was the Tim Boetsch victory before the Vitor Belfort fight. So he's won 2 out of his last 3. But there was a point after Cormier-Mousasi, particularly against Cormier, where he looked like he had no business being in the cage.
Cormier put him in a locker and slammed the door on him.
Yeah.
I mean, that was high school bully 101 stuff. But
which I never thought I would see happen again, Henderson. I mean,
yeah, I don't know. Henderson doesn't. He loves fighting so much that it's really hard to imagine him walking away before he has to be carried away. And I hope he does, but
I'm not optimistic. No. So, but tonight was sweet, and for all the Hector Lombard haters, this has been a long time coming. I'm sure Lombard got somebody who likes him somewhere, but I haven't heard of this person. And just kidding, folks. The guy, whatever. But I've been rooting against him for a long ass time. The PED bust just put a cherry on top and fought a great fight tonight. I mean, as far as back and forth action, taking shots and giving shots, but just came up painfully short against Dan Henderson. And who's expected Dan Henderson to beat you with a head kick followed by a reverse elbow? I mean,
no, it's so dumb. It's so just like people are like, "Ha! I told you, I called it." It's like, no, you didn't. Just stop. Like
it wasn't the H bomb. It wasn't that Lombard got caught circling to his left. It was that Hendo caught him with a high kick. Followed by that was some Anderson Silva shit. I mean, it was not graceful like Anderson Silva would have done, but it was very powerful and very effective. And he went immediately into that flying forearm to the face of a prone opponent. And Lombard, they could not open his eyes for several seconds to shine the light in. It was kind of scary there for a minute. And I'd say Lombard's days of drawing big paychecks are over.
Yeah, I mean, the moment he has to renegotiate a contract, you can bet that he's going to be getting a low ball off of whatever he had last time.
Yeah, I could easily see him going back to Bellator when all is said and done. Last 3 fights, 2 losses in a row. Got knocked out by Neil Magny before this, and then had the Josh Berkman win that was overturned because of anabolic steroid use by Lombard. Yeah. What was it?
Oh, just a drug test failure. So, yeah, I mean, two losses in a row and a drug test failure are. He's not on anybody's hot list.
No, and was not a fan favorite before. I mean, it was definitely the kind of guy that, as long as he had the aura of menace and unbeatability about him, was a very hot ticket, but yeah, ever since Tim Boetsch derailed him in the UFC, it's been all downhill for Hector Lombard. Then in the opener of the pay-per-view, Dustin Poirier really put it to Bobby Green, knocked him out 2 minutes 53 seconds. Just lit him up. I do not recall seeing Bobby Green just get taken like that.
I got this like I have this very Jessica I feeling about Bobby Green, which is that I really want to root for him, and then I can't. Like then I,
You're confronted with the reality of Bobby Green.
Yeah, and there was something incredible. There was some incredible Schadenfreude about Bobby Green trying to clown Dustin Poirier and just getting put on his ass in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Like that's so cathartic to see a guy just being like, "Nah, you can't hit me, you can't hurt me," and then bam, on the ground.
Yes, it was pretty sweet. And Poirier, it's a very tough division, but Poirier is somebody I look forward to seeing fight pretty much anybody else in that division.
He's endlessly aggressive and he hits stupid hard. Like he's never gotten enough credit for being a monstrously hard puncher. And that combined with him being aggressive in his gas tank, I mean, somebody who can fight that hard at some insane pace for 15 minutes, it makes him so dangerous and tough to plan for that he's, it doesn't feel like he's ever going to be the an elite championship level fighter because he's technically never going to be a perfectly clean fighter. No. But he will take the fight to anyone, anywhere, and he will always be hitting hard and coming after people. And that makes him really fun to watch. And at this point, it makes him an elite action fighter, top 10 level guy that you can put in other top 10 fights, and he'll turn it into something fun.
And it's easy to imagine who they could book next because Beneil Dariush just won a big fight against James Vick, looked very sharp. They're ranked right next to each other in the lightweight division rankings. What are they? 10, 11 going into this fight. I bet they both jump up. I bet Poirier jumps up more. And it's a perfect fight. And I don't know. I have to think about it. Poirier's chances, I like him though. But
I would pick Poirier in that fight. Honestly, Dariush has been stopped, and as good as this performance was over Vic, Dustin Poirier is not James Vick.
No.
He is not the same kind of put-awayable target. And Poirier, like I say, if the battle of Beneil Dariush's striking versus Dustin Poirier's striking, I trust Dustin Poirier to hit harder and be more consistent.
Yes. Although Dariush could turn it into a grappling match, which might be his advantage. But let's move on to the Fox Sports 1 card. As we said, we had Dariush beat James Vick first round, 4 minutes, 16 seconds. KO. Very impressive performance from Dariush coming in off a loss. Looked really good. I mean, just beat the piss out of him.
Yeah.
Man.
I loved seeing it. I loved it especially because it came after 2 eye pokes. And every goddamn James Vick fight, he's always trying to post off somebody's head with that hand. And he eye pokes people in almost every fight. So for Dariush to get poked and just get as pissed off as he could be and put a beating on him, man, that was nice to see.
Yes, because the guys that are doing the open-handed flailing, they know what they're doing. Like Vic has noticed, I poke a lot of guys in the eye when I go out there and jab my fingers at him. I mean, the dude knows what he's doing. I'm sick of the no accidental eye poke stuff, and Dariush punished him for it. That was sweet to see. But in the headliner of the Fox Sports 1 card, we kind of jumped around a little bit. Featherweight Brian Ortega came back to beat Clay Guida 4 minutes, 40 seconds of the third round. I thought Ortega had dicked around and potentially lost the fight right up until the moment he knocked Guida out with a knee.
Yeah, I still feel like going into this fight, I thought this is a fight that'll make Ortega look really good, and he's going to take a bad loss somewhere in the near future, fighting up at the elite levels of featherweight. And I still feel like that bad loss is coming. He just didn't get the benefit of looking really good against Clay Guida. It was a wrestler versus grappler kickboxing match in which I thought that Ortega lost the majority of that kickboxing match.
Got out kicked way up.
Yeah. He was apparently it was even on the scorecards for two judges heading into the third. They gave Ortega the second. He apparently outlanded Guida in the second, but it was not like it wasn't a notable round for him at all. It was a tough, tight round. And credit to him, he was able to, finally kind of time Guida, figure out what Guida was doing, and land that big shot. But if I think about him fighting Ricardo Lamas or something like that, and giving, a dude who's getting dropped in round 1 by Clay Guida against those other top featherweights,
is going to be out.
Yeah, I'm glad Ortega won the fight that I thought he would. He's new blood up the top of the division. He creates some interesting matchups. He's a great grappler, but he really has to. He's got to show more than this, and this was good. It was good that he got the KO, but it's got to be better.
Yeah, it was one of the less impressive one-shot KOs that I can remember. All right, and then you had women's strawweight. Jessica Andrade just came to the division, came down from women's bantamweight, and just beat the piss out of Jessica Penn, who was coming in off of a title shot loss to Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Andrade is a factor in the division. What can you say?
Yeah, she looked amazing. This was a huge step forward to me. She didn't put herself in bad positions technically. She never overcommitted. She never chased Penne to the ground or let Penne grab hold of her and backpack her in the way that she has against other fighters. I kind of wonder if the weight cut and maybe cutting down to a division where she's the strongest person or one of the strongest people there has really made her feel less of a need to be as ridiculously aggressive because she knows she's safer, that she can be more dominant and doesn't have to worry about I don't know what it is. Maybe she's just finally hit that maturing arc where she's realized that she needs to control the aggression that's gotten her some bad losses. But she was absolutely Lineker-like in this performance. Just put all the hands on Penne all the time.
Yeah, it was very impressive. Big win for Andrade. Then you had featherweight Alex Bruce Leroy Caceres just dominate Cole Miller for the first round, second round, into the third round, then ran out of gas, and Miller came back, almost submitted him in the third. Miller really looked like crap through this. I mean, Caceres caught him with a left early that hurt him, and Miller never, for at least a round and a half after that, didn't get back in the fight. But then he did at the end. I mean, it was a frustrating fight because Caceres really looked sharp, looked dominant, and then almost gave it away.
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to chalk it up to Caceres just taking the fight on short notice and not having the cardio to go all 3 rounds. But because that's the only explanation I can have, because up until the end of the second round, I thought Caceres fought the absolute perfect fight. I mean, the reason I didn't pick Caceres, because I could see, is I really think Caceres has a good striking advantage over Cole Miller. He's got a good high output kicking game, a good counter boxing game. Miller struggles with that kind of style, but he'd have to fight a perfect fight, and Caceres is never a dude that fights perfect fights.
No.
He always finds a way to screw things up terribly. In this instance, I feel like I should give him some benefit of the doubt, short notice. Maybe that's why he gassed out, but it could also just be that he's just Alex Caceres, and he'll always have that ability to just flip off mentally and give up ridiculous, almost fight-losing positions.
Miller's always had a good jiu-jitsu game, and brought it to good service there towards the end of the fight, but it wasn't enough, and Caceres took the unanimous decision, 30-27 on one judge's card, which makes you wonder what that judge was watching in the third round, but we'll never know. All right, then I had 4 fights on Fight Pass, opening up with Marco Polo Reyes and Dong Hyun Kim, not Stun Gun Kim, but another guy named Dong Hyun Kim. Third round knockout, minute 52 for Reyes. Just not a great fight, but a really fun, wild brawl.
I don't know. I thought it was a great fight. I thought that as limited as they were nicely technical in those limitations. It wasn't the Henrique de Silva Wilson,
any head movement or boxing defense whatsoever.
No, but the Henrique de Silva Wilson fight, that's a sloppy as shit fun fight. That's just all over the place, totally sloppy, totally out of control, but still fun. the Reyes Dong Young Kim fight, that was basically just a hell of a defensively lacking boxing match.
Yeah, both of them had some sharp, slick offensive boxing, and
Yeah, and zero defense whatsoever.
no common sense. And it was a great fight though. Both guys got hurt. Both guys came back. Both guys showed some incredible heart, incredibly heavy beards. But Kim just kept charging into punches and no defense whatsoever. Reyes eventually caught him, but it could easily have gone the other way. I mean, there were many points when Kim had him hurt and looked like he was going to finish it.
Yeah, it was. Kim is in. The thing is that Kim got outlanded almost 2-1 in that fight, but he's just so ridiculously tough that he was able to hurt Reyes so much. I'm excited to see what Reyes can do and develop if this didn't take years off his life.
It did.
But it's just a testament to how tough Kim is that he's able to absorb the amount of strikes he does and still fight through it.
Yeah, but not a strategy with a lot of future.
No, he might get cut right here. 2 losses in a row in his first 2 fights.
One would hope that after giving a performance that gutsy, that they can keep around. But it's a crowded division, and I could easily see him getting cut. All right, then you had middleweight Kevin Casey, son-in-law of Muhammad Ali, fighting at a very bad time, tragically, and definitely a shout out to the great Muhammad Ali, 74 years old when he passed from a lung ailment. But Casey drew Elvis Mudopchik. I thought Casey had it. I thought the grappling in the first 2 rounds was enough, but Elvis did hurt him in the second round, so I could see it. I could see it going the other way. I could see it going for Elvis. Then you end up with a draw. Nobody's happy.
I'm happy. I like the draw. I think it was a deserved draw. I think that second round was weird enough and funky enough where Casey obviously had a lot of dominant position and did decent work with it, and then lost it and got hurt, and Mutapcic rallied back and landed the bigger, better offense to close the round to make that round just kind of a toss-up. And then in the third round, Mutapcic absolutely had it. It went the way that fight was always going to go, with Casey starting strong and slowing badly, and Mutapcic turning it up late. When you do that, sometimes that Nexus second round where they cross over doesn't end up being as clear as it should be, and draw's fine.
Yeah, it's definitely not the end of the world. Then you had the light heavyweight fight. You referenced Luis Enrique de Silva and Jonathan Wilson, both of them going into it undefeated. Enrique got the finish in the second round, although Wilson just before that almost knocked de Silva out.
Yeah, this was a sloppy shit show of a fight. It was fun. It was back and forth the whole time. Enrique kicking constantly, Wilson landing all the better punches, Enrique landing all the better kicks.
And knees.
And knees. And Enrique just the thing is, some of these Brazilian guys, they come up and they may not be as good athletes, or they may not be as technically they may just be a complete mess, but they are tough as hell. Yes. And Wilson getting hit to the body all those times, you could see it was just sapping him early. And as the fight wore on, Enrique's not going anywhere, and he just kept putting the offense on, kept putting everything together, and eventually got the finish. And I was hoping Wilson would win because I want to see guys like him develop. But it looks like he has the athletic tools. He looks like he's building a technical game, but that's what happens too when you come up crushing cans. Is you get a guy in front of you who's really tough and hard to put away, and suddenly you run out of tools really fast.
Yeah, and you have to have a gut check moment, and Wilson couldn't quite come through. I mean, he definitely rode out some hard shots, came back, gave his own shots many times. He fought a gutsy fight, but just wasn't quite gutsy enough. And Enrique de Silva, it was also one of those fights where Wilson, they kept getting into the tie plum position, and Wilson kept going for the rib roasters, but it's hard to beat a guy throwing knees at you with punches. It just is.
Yeah.
And
a few fighters can do it, not many. It's you got to be the John Lineker, Fabio Maldonado, Jessica Andrade type, and even they have lost those battles before.
Yeah. It's just a low percentage situation, bad stylistic matchup for the puncher. Then you had Sean Strickland decision, Tom Breeze in a split decision at the featured fight on the Fight Pass card, but easily I don't know, it wasn't the most fun fight on the card.
It's the least interesting fight on this whole card, top to bottom, I'd say. I mean,
two guys who look exactly alike, not really putting on any offense for 3 rounds.
I said going into it when I was on Twitter that I kind of expected this to just be a staring contest, because Strickland is the thing for Strickland. And afterward, he said like, "Oh, I really wanted him to come to me and fight and throw down, and he wouldn't." And it's like, you are the most defense first fighter on the planet, and you're trying to call someone else out for not scrapping with you, and you don't sit down on anything. He's just out there flicking out these small punches and then getting out of the way the moment anything comes back at him. And it was fine. It was effective. It was enough to get by Tom Breeze, despite Breeze landing the harder shots. Breeze just couldn't match his output.
Nope.
But it's, Strickland has his focus on defense over offense is kind of a problem at welterweight, where better, more put together technical fighters, like guys like who was it to beat him? Santiago Ponzinibbio are always going to be able to find advantages over him.
Yeah, and seize those advantages brutally. But enough about that crappy fight. Let's talk about Michael Bisping a little more. Great performance for Michael Bisping. Big night for MMA. Bisping takes the middleweight title. Cruz holds the middleweight title. We find out Brock Lesnar is going to be UFC 200. And it's confirmed. Big news. Big. I think it saves the card, honestly, as an attraction. I mean, it was already a great card with Jones Cormier for the hardcore fans, but it was not that super extra special event that it would have been had Conor McGregor been rematching Nate Diaz. Now you've got Brock Lesnar in there, so they're injecting some of the circus back into it.
Yeah, it's definitely the right thing to do to get that complete, freakish, outlandish, cannot ignore this, must watch it card feeling to it.
And if they get Fedor,
I got to think if they were going to get Fedor, we wouldn't have heard anything about this fight at all until both sides, if it had been announced. However,
I think Ariel Helwani broke the story earlier than they wanted it broken.
That could be. It could also be that maybe that getting Brock on board and announcing that is their lure to draw in the other big name and say, no, look, we actually did get Brock Lesnar, so we have this to offer you. We're not just saying we're negotiating with him. So we could see a bigger fight. I kind of feel like there's a chance, though, that they just throw him against somebody random on the roster to get that appeal of watch Brock come back, and in a weird fight, he could probably win.
Yeah, and so it'll be fun to find out. And it was a very fun evening with Henderson beating Lombard, Bisping upsetting Rockhold, Cruz and Faber, one would think, sealing the trilogy there. So, Zane Simon, thanks very much. Follow us on Twitter at KidNate, at TheZaneSimon. Read us on BloodyElbow.com. Subscribe to MMANation.com on YouTube. Subscribe to MMA Nation on iTunes. And Eugene will have Knuckle Up tomorrow evening, and we'll be back with If I Did It this week, and then there's another fight. 2 weeks?
Yeah, we've got a week off this week, but next event coming up after that. I can't remember what it is right now.
Nobody cares right now, but we'll have all the fixings for that. Care, don't care preview, MMA vivisection, the whole bit. So, adios, MMA aficionados, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Zane.